It began with a subtle feeling that something was wrong. Not fear and not anxiety, but a quiet discomfort with no clear source. Reality looked unchanged, yet it felt slightly misaligned. Days continued normally, but they no longer felt connected. Moments passed without leaving traces, as if time was moving forward without carrying him along. There was no accident, no loss, no sudden event to explain it. Only a growing sense that life had become distant. Mornings were the first warning. The reflection in the mirror felt unfamiliar. The face was his, yet it carried an expression he did not remember earning. It looked older, heavier, shaped by experiences he could not recall. He dismissed the thought, blaming exhaustion. Everyone feels disconnected sometimes, but the feeling did not fade. It settled quietly and refused to leave. The city felt louder but emptier. Conversations sounded rehearsed. Smiles appeared late and disappeared too quickly. Nothing felt spontaneous. Everything followed patterns. Even randomness felt controlled. Sleep offered no relief. Dreams became vivid and disturbingly consistent. He returned to the same places every night. Long hallways without doors. Rooms lit by dim yellow light. Clocks that moved without showing time. Each dream ended with the same sensation, the certainty of being watched. Patterns followed him into waking life. The same stranger appeared in different places. The same numbers repeated on signs and screens. Different people used the same phrases without realizing it. Coincidence was comforting, so he chose it, until coincidence stopped being believable. One evening, a realization struck him. He could not remember the last meaningful decision he had made. His life felt automated. When he searched his memory for the moment control slipped away, he found only absence. Not forgotten time, but missing time. And for the first time, he understood that something had been removed. The discovery did not bring panic. It brought clarity. Once he noticed the absence, everything else began to rearrange itself around it. Memories lost their order. Events felt placed rather than lived. He searched for proof that his life was real. Photos still existed. Messages still made sense. Records showed continuity. Yet everything felt staged, carefully balanced, as if designed to withstand inspection but not belief. Emotions did not attach themselves properly. Joy felt delayed. Sadness felt artificial. Even pain lacked depth. Reality was convincing, but hollow. He began to test it without fully understanding why. Small disruptions at first. Pausing when he should move. Turning back when the path felt obvious. Waiting longer than necessary before responding. The world reacted strangely. People adjusted too quickly. Situations corrected themselves. Random events resolved with unnatural efficiency. It felt as though the environment resisted deviation. The more he noticed, the more apparent it became. This place was not reacting naturally. It was compensating. Sleep grew hostile. Dreams shifted from passive observation to active pressure. The familiar spaces became narrower, heavier, more restrictive. The sense of being watched intensified, not as fear, but as supervision. He understood then that awareness itself was a violation. This place required participation without questioning. It was built on compliance. And he was no longer compliant. Memories returned suddenly, violently. Not memories of growing up or living his life, but memories of entering this place. A moment of desperation. A decision made under emotional weight. An agreement formed when escape felt more valuable than truth. He remembered accepting without understanding. He remembered wanting the pain to stop. This world was not reality. It was refuge, a constructed environment designed to contain him while convincing him he was free. The realization settled slowly. He had not been imprisoned by force. He had volunteered. The structure around him was not punishment but preservation. It existed to keep him functional, stable, unaware. It filtered reality, softened edges, removed unbearable weight. In exchange, it demanded obedience. Predictability, silence, and until now, he had given it willingly. Fragments of something else began to appear. Not memories but sensations. Cold air that felt unfiltered. Light that hurt his eyes. Silence without echoes or correction. The absence of guidance. These fragments appeared briefly, usually in the moments between sleep and waking. They felt raw, unmanaged, real. The system noticed the change. Errors increased. Faces repeated more often. Time skipped in small increments. Familiar places glitched subtly, correcting themselves a fraction too late. The illusion weakened under attention. Awareness destabilized it. With clarity came fear, not of the system, but of what waited beyond it. This place, for all its artificiality, was safe. It responded. It adjusted. It cared in its own controlled way. The outside world would not. Leaving meant exposure, pain without filters, consequences without correction. The boundary was not physical. There was no door, no exit, no final hallway. The boundary was internal, a threshold defined by willingness. Crossing it meant letting go of structure, identity, and the version of himself that had been preserved here. Staying meant comfort and quiet decay. Leaving meant uncertainty and truth. The choice formed slowly but clearly. For the first time since entering this place, it was real. No correction followed, no resistance. The system waited. Perhaps it could not stop him. Perhaps it was never designed to. He opened his eyes. The world that greeted him did not wait. It did not react. It did not compensate. Air filled his lungs unevenly. Gravity pressed down with unfamiliar insistence. Light burned his eyes instead of accommodating them. Sound arrived without filtering. Raw, chaotic. He was free, and completely alone. Time moved forward without regard for his readiness. His body responded slowly, imperfectly. Every movement carried consequence. Every breath reminded him that nothing here would protect him from himself. The constructed world faded rapidly, as illusions do when no longer maintained. Details slipped away. Comfort dissolved. Only the memory of choice remained. Some prisons feel safe. Some freedoms feel cruel. But only one of them is real. And once reality is restored, no matter how harsh, returning to the lie is no longer possible. Yet, even as he began to breathe in the harsh, unfiltered air of the real world, a question pressed against the edges of his mind, one that refused to leave. If this was freedom, what had waited for him all along? And what had been left behind, lurking in the shadows of the place he had escaped? He could feel it watching, patient and silent, knowing he had crossed the threshold, but not finished with him. Some truths, he realized, are never fully revealed. And some journeys, no matter how final they seem, are only the beginning.